Welcome to the first of several devlogs showcasing ShotSpark Studios and our debut title A.W.O.L. With me is Michelle Sleeper. My name is Andrew Child.
Hello. I am well, we wear a lot of hats in such a small team like this, but I'll just I guess I'll say that I'm the lead gameplay and AI programmer on the project. And we wanted to show off some of the fun features, specifically pertaining to the expanded AI, both of the enemies and the player's AI squad that you will have in Project A.W.O.L.
Yes, the squad is going to be an integral part of the game and the game experience because they behave as an extension of your own actions. And we'll show off just how that will kind of fit everyone's size, so to speak.
Well, before we get into that, do we want to let's talk a little bit about what A.W.O.L is and where A.W.O.L came from and everything, you know? Because I'm sure a lot of people out there, especially in the community, will remember the name, but I think there's a lot of people who have come to the build community that may not be familiar with the history of the project.
Quite true. AWOL was a total conversion that we came up with around 2002, I believe. It was something I whipped together. Basically, there weren't a lot of military type mods or shooters at that time, especially not one with the grandeur ideas I had. Um, and I reached out and I got a hold of Michelle and asked her to help me with some ladders. And then, well, here we are. But um, it had, at the time, were relatively groundbreaking features. The source code wasn't out yet, and we weren't even using eduke, and we were
Yeah,
able to
yeah, this was
produce
a couple
vehicles.
years before Edu came out, because that came out in it. I remember, I forget the exact year. I want to say 2003 or 2004. But yeah, this was at least a year or two before Edic was even available. So yeah, AWOL started life on the 1.5 scripting language, um,
Yeah.
which which there was some fun things that you could do and really kind of hack together some interesting effects. But I mean, it was extremely limited. You had a very limited amount of control over the engine. And Eduk kind of really opened up uh, like what was possible. Um,
Oh yeah. I think I was running Windows 98 at the time.
yeah. So I mean, at the time, we were just kind of like, all right, we have this access to this new language, to all these new features. Like, let's just start throwing things at the wall and seeing what we were capable of doing. And there were a lot of really neat effects and abilities and gameplay features that we had developed. And the two that really kind of stood out were uh, this AI friendly AI team that you had and drivable vehicles, which I believe at the time no one had ever done before. And we had three of them. We had a Jeep, which was kind of boring, but it worked. I remember programming a mock transmission into it, so you had to manually shift gears. Uh, there
Yes.
was a helicopter, like an Apache, and that was a lot of fun. That one moved around kinda realistically.
Oh,
Um,
it had the light that went off inside when you had a lock on.
yeah, there were so you build a gameplay feature, you have to build opponents to it. So I built surface to air missile sights, so they would shoot at you and the missiles would hum in on you, and you'd have an alarm going off in the cockpit. It was really interesting. And then the one that was the most fun, I think, was the tank, where the tank. I mean, I wanted to have it have tank controls. So the turret control, like where you were looking, was independent of your movement. So like a tank, you could be driving one direction and then looking another, and that was really exciting.
And what?
Unfortunately, like nothing kind of happened with the project, right? Like we had been working on it as a hobby project for a couple of years, and yeah, we put like 3 years into it, and at the end of it, still didn't really have anything playable.
Well, playable is arguable. I mean, we while we were waiting and looking for mapping talent, we had fun with. We did lose sight quite a bit with the whole "let's see what we can do" in the build engine, which turns out to be quite a lot. But it wasn't a game. We didn't have any content.
Yeah, it was a bunch of like effects and features with no gameplay to it.
No meat at all.
Yeah. And so like we kind of like worked on this. Again, it was a hobby project. We worked on this off and on for a couple of years, and then, around 2005, all of us were kind of moving in different directions with our lives. And it
Real
just
life took its toll.
right, and so we straight up abandoned it. Um which is not uncommon for fan projects to happen, right? Like that happens.
No, not the same fate.
Yeah. So we I think it was in 2007 I decided to just release the source code, to release everything that we had in an unfinished state. Um
Yeah, I was so happy you did that because at least people could experience it. Didn't we have like over 100 test maps or 99 or something?
God, we had so many like random maps of just like yeah, we had several mappers and they worked on some maps partially. Um but like it's difficult to develop maps for a game that doesn't exist, right? Like when you're in mid development.
Just a little
Um,
bit.
yeah, so yeah, we had a bunch of like maps that weren't really maps. There was no real gameplay. Some of them had some gameplay sections, but everything was far from finished. And yeah, like I just didn't want it to disappear on my hard drive. Because I mean, that happens all the time. Is that someone's like,
Because it
"Oh, I
could
had a
be
hard
good.
drive crash and I lost all of my progress on this project." Yeah, so I didn't want that to happen to A.W.O.L. And there were a couple other projects that were like our contemporaries in that period that also wound up becoming abandoned, but to my knowledge, like were never made publicly available. So I didn't want the same fate to happen to A.W.O.L. So even though it was unfinished, even though
Yeah,
we had these effects and these features, like I wanted the public to see them in some state.
at the very least, they can check it out in like a autopsy way.
Right. So yeah, that was in 2007, I believe. So fast forward over a decade, right? Uh, 13 years later, um, all of us had moved on to different directions. Some of us were still in game development. I have since had like my own small business, totally unrelated to video games. Um,
I went into professional IT work.
yeah, life just kind of took us all in various directions, and we linked up in the E1M1 Discord server.
Yeah,
E1M1 being the magazine, right?
it just happened to be there.
Yeah, and like you and I would like chat on Facebook every now and then, but didn't really like keep up or like talk
We
about game
keep in touch,
development or
but
anything.
we wouldn't do game dev jams or anything.
Yeah. So then, yeah, we were just chatting, and one of the writers, one of the I guess co-founders of the magazine, was like, "Hey, A.W.O.L sounds really neat. I'd love to like check it out." And then I don't know what like came over us, but we were like, "Hey, we should like put that back together, right?"
Yeah, actually took a screenshot of it. He said, "I don't know what AWOL is, but I want it," and we said, "You got it."
Yeah, because I know that we had always talked about like, oh, it would be so great if we like went back to A.W.O.L and if we actually finished it. That'd be so great because it was. I mean, yeah, we put it in the teaser trailer as kind of a joke, where it was like the most anticipated total conversion,
Oh
and like
yeah,
I don't know how true that is, but more than a couple of people have since been like, oh man, I remember that. I remember like reading about A.W.O.L and wanting to play it.
Yeah, it's been very humbling, very cool.
So yeah, so and that was only like 3 months ago, almost 4 months at this point, and it has been everyone on the gas, nobody's on the brakes, everything is just out of control every single day. And yeah, we put together like really, I say you've put together a really great team.
Well, I wanted to make sure that no one was left holding the bag for anything, in the sense that I wanted it to be fun, and I wanted this to be a good time. And to do that, instead of having one person do all the work, like, you know, the traditional old mod sense, we get a few people in and we'd all work together. Little did I know that it would just click together one day and boom, a game.
Yeah, and like we started out and like the first order of business was like, let's look at what is in AWOL 2005. We're gonna reuse like almost none of it, like at least in terms of code and assets and whatnot. But conceptually, we like the ideas that were there.
Yeah,
So
we're
yeah,
grown up with a chainsaw at that point.
yeah. So like day one, I'm like I'm looking at the code base for the first time in like 10, almost 15 years. And I'm just like ripping out whole sections. Like, okay, this entire like gameplay feature effect, we're not going to use this. Let's just pull it all out. Um, like map specific effects and like this, that, and the other to like try and find like, all right, what's the real like? There's so much wrapper. Like, what's the real meat? What's the real game that we have here?
Exactly. Because we had like sandstorm effects and just effects stacked on effects.
Yeah, and I mean, having some distance from the original project is really interesting because like I remember like coming up with these things and they were like really standout at the time. Um, the vehicles was the one that I remember being like the thing that like even we couldn't believe that we managed to make this work,
Oh,
and it worked pretty well.
yeah, the fact that they work pretty well is what was so exciting.
Yeah, so we kind of went into the revival with the intent of like, okay, like our main features are vehicles and like the friendly AI bots, right?
Yeah,
Um, and
basically builds Call of Duty.
yeah, and like the AI bots in like A.W.O.L 2005, they were like disposable like toy soldiers basically. Like they would like spawn in or they would like airdrop in or whatever. There'd be like
Green Army Man.
yeah, five, six, seven of them, and they'd get mowed down at some point, and like that would be fine. Like you just move through the level,
Hmm.
and as we were kind of like developing some things, we discovered like okay, one of the major things we were working on was vastly improving the enemy AI to make them more interesting and more engaging.
Well, we had so much power given to us. Like a lot of a lot of advancements happened in the interim.
In terms of the engine, yeah, not to mention like I'm a much better programmer now than I was 15 years ago. And I have a lot of experience in other game engines, Source Engine and Unity primarily. So
Experiences. Yeah,
yeah, so like I took these lessons that I learned from those other engines and like how to put together like these sort of like interactive AIs and these interesting enemies to fight and applied those lessons to the build engine. Um, so yeah, early on we were like ripping out all the old features. We thought we were gonna keep the vehicles and the friendly bots, and so like I start working on like AI, and like we're working with our mappers. Like okay, like what do you want your map to like work like? Like what's the idea of this map? And very quickly we discovered that we were building. I mean, there's so many comparisons we can make to like other games. I think the one that we went back to a lot is like almost Metal Gear Solid, the Metal Gear franchise.
yeah,
Um, yeah, where like enemies are like alive in the world, and you either have to sneak around them or like be tactical in how you take them out.
that was the whole idea. Yeah,
Yeah,
because they had the Kona vision.
yeah. So the enemies are smart, and then we started bringing in the AI bots again. And we very quickly realized that we needed to make the bots at least as smart as the enemies, if not smarter.
and fun.
Yeah, and like from there we kind of realized that that was the real that was the real hidden nugget of gold in this gameplay that we were developing, was this interaction between the bots, between you and the bots, acting as a cohesive unit, and and fighting against the AI agents in the various levels.
Yeah, having a bunch of minions and working along with you, and it doesn't matter if you're wanting to play it stealthy or just go in, guns blazing. They act as a part of you, and as far as vehicles and features, man, that changed everything.
Right. And okay, so I'm bringing up the game now. We're gonna try and show off some of the some of the AIs that we're talking about here, because again, we were developing the maps and trying to figure out what do we want the gameplay to be like in this thing that we're making, right?
Hmm.
Now, this is one of my test maps, and I have the AIs in a state where they're not going to be waking up. Normally, if I jump in front of this guy, he's going to immediately wake up on me. So this is not how it's going to look normally in game. Um, one of the major things that we wanted to do was make the enemies feel very alive and reactive to the world around them. Um, are all these guys just standing around? I know he's patrolling. This boy over here is... I think he's patrolling. We'll find out in a second.
Just wanted to crack his neck.
I will here in a second. Okay, he's moving. And he's attempting to pathfind. So we'll get to this in just a second. So the major thing that we've done is totally revamp the AI from the ground up. I mean, these are not your typical Liz troops that have just been modified slightly. The AI has been totally and completely rewritten from the ground up to be interactive and to be engaging and very different. So we have here three basic types of enemies we refer to them as idle AIs that you'll interact in the game. And Andrew, feel free to interject if you have any questions or thoughts you want to ask on behalf of the audience here. But so the first guy that we're showing off here, he's just standing around, kind of patrolling his little zone. So he'll walk around in this area where he starts from. I'm not sure where he's trying to wander off to. Normally he would turn around by about now.
So,
Now he's getting in the way of the other patroller.
by default, they're all active doing their own thing, right?
Yes. So again, unlike in Duke 3D or something where the enemies are asleep in a sleeping state when you load into the level, and they don't wake up until you come into visual line of sight with them. These guys are all awake all the time. So you have an opportunity to from a distance you can watch their movements and plan your decisions accordingly.
That's the big Metal Gear Solid influence we want to.
Yeah. So this guy, for example, I think his animation is gonna bug out. So just FYI. But one of the things that we
The
can
work
do.
in progress.
Yeah. We can do a stealth kill. So I'm behind him, and it brings up the stealth kill prompt. And so if I go ahead and do that, he dies. And he did not alert anyone else, so no one else is aware of his presence. What'd you say?
Animation forthcoming.
Yeah. Now again, normally they would see, okay, there's a dead body here. I should be alert to that. I have that disabled for the test because I don't want them to wake up in times they shouldn't. So normally, seeing a dead body would wake them up. But that's
so you gotta really pay attention if you want to get out with no kill.
Yeah. So so here's another one of our idle patrollers. They kind of walk in an area around them. I am not sure why this guy seems stuck right here. like you said, this is definitely work in progress. We've been making some changes to the AI, so
Yeah.
maybe in a later devlog we'll show them off in a little bit more of a finished state.
See, the thing is, no matter when we record, it'll be probably rewritten by the time you see it again.
Yeah. So, and then these guys are the other more common type, where they're like sentries, the guards. They will literally just stand here doing whatever it is they're doing. Sometimes they're in a guard post, sometimes they are standing by a manned machine gun, but they're not going to walk around, they're not going to change their position like these guys will. So
Yeah,
these
they're
guys
like,
are obviously the much easier to take down. But then we have the guys that are the most interesting, which you can see him doing his pathfinding, his patrolling route here.
this
So
guy I love to watch because he never takes the same route twice.
yes, it's actually it's not immediately obvious. I'm going to turn on some debug features in a second to show it off, but this path that he's walking is calculated at runtime using our pathfinding system. So all he knows is these 2 points that he stops at. He's gonna walk over here, he's gonna stop right there, and then he's gonna walk back to the other one. But the exact path that he walks is handled like in the middle of gameplay. So I'm gonna let him cross this little barrier here. And normally he wants to take this path because it's the shortest path, right? And I'm gonna turn on
I'm very hesitant to say things like infinite replayability and um, AI that dynamically reacts to the player, but in this particular case, um, it really does. Playing through a different level or playing through a level several times, it's uh, it's fun.
yeah, I'm surprised at I hate to use
You
buzzwords,
thought
but
it was BS.
yeah, I was skeptical at the replayability, and like I hesitate to use terms like emergent gameplay, but like when we were recording the trailer, I ran into a lot of issues actually showing off some of the features because they kept wanting to like act smarter than I needed them to. So I'm gonna set this A star debugging feature, and this is showing off a couple of things. The path that we're looking at, these blue lines,
Okay.
this is his path to his target. That we can see going off all the way down to the distance. Now,
God.
now near him, in sort of like an area around him, is a bunch of other ones, and that's his local pathfinding. So what this does is that he tries to find a path to his target, but will also attempt to clear any obstacles that are immediately around him. Now, this map is simple and there aren't any real obstacles, but this will allow them to not get stuck in rooms or like stuck on various props that you might see in a lot of other build maps.
Okay, so
So,
he's got more options when he's in the moment.
yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off his path. So he can't walk this way anymore. And you can see him now attempting to pathfind around the wall.
And this is all done on the fly, right?
Yeah. There is again the only things that he has set are the 2 points, the 2 patrol points that I have. So if something in the map changes, where like a door opens or anything like that, it's gonna change the way that the level plays. Um,
And here he goes.
yeah, and so like he now understands. Okay, this is the path that I need to take to get to where I'm going. Um, the pathfinding is not optimized for this map, so he's
Oh, but
bugging
these
out a
test
little
maps
bit.
are for
So what now?
random. I said these test maps are always fun. I remember we had over. Yeah, I think that's why we had 99 of them for the
Yeah,
first
because we
little
had
while.
had features changing. So did you notice how he just tried to avoid this mud here?
Yes.
So various. I'm actually gonna go ahead and open his path so you can see him on the fly change. Like, okay, I see now. This is the shortest path. I'm gonna go this way.
I kid you not, I have watched these over and over and over again, these examples.
But yeah, so you watch him avoid the mud. Various hazards in a map like enemies will understand them and try to avoid them. I have this mud sector set up so that they will try to stay out of this as just kind of an arbitrary obstacle. But I mean, you can imagine if an area has like, lava or slime or whatever, um, like the enemies will actively attempt to avoid that. And like part of that is also we want our friendly AIs to act as intelligently as you do, because the systems that govern the enemies are also shared by the systems that govern the friendly AI.
And these AIs, friendly or enemy, they share information within themselves, right? Like, uh, for instance, if they know where the player is, they share that information with people around them.
So we have quite a few different types of enemies, and all the enemies kind of have different thought processes, different behaviors, essentially. Um, so some enemies will act in a more like professional soldier sense and attempt to do like you said, where if one enemy spots you, they'll share that information with the other enemies that are on the map. Whereas other enemies are less professional and are more like solo actors, and they'll just attempt to fight you one on one.
So your game experience isn't ruined just because the first enemy saw it.
Right. And that'll depend on the type of mission that you're playing, or the specific objectives in the map that you're playing on. So it'll
Yeah.
the maps will have sort of like we're not going to be forcing players to solve problems any one
No,
specific
no, no.
way, but you'll have to understand how the enemies think and like how they work themselves to best take them out. But your AI team, on the other hand, so I'm just gonna interject here. This is an interesting quirk of the way the pathfinding works, is that he got to about this point where I'm standing, and suddenly this path became shortest. So now he's walking over this way, even though nothing changed in the map. So again, the way that the
Yeah.
enemies like are moving around will inform how they decide to build their paths when they're moving
That's
around the world.
fantastic.
Right? Like that was 100% unscripted. I'm very surprised that he did that. Um, but
Playing
it
through and getting zero kills, and zero sighting is very, very challenging. It's very fun. Even in these silly test maps, I've played them over and over. I really can't wait till we can show off more.
Yeah, definitely. And but you were talking about the enemy AIs. Uh,
Yes, the
are,
sharing of information.
yeah.
Um,
But your AI squad does do that. Your AI squad is very smart. They share information uh, with each other and with you, the player, in both an active and passive way. Um, we'll do a devlog on the AI bots themselves because they're a much like larger subject. Um, but I mean, as he said at the top of this, like the goal is for the AI team to feel like an extension of you and like an extension of like your decisions and your playstyle, and not feel like a hindrance or like that you're having to fight against them. We're working very hard to make them feel organic and like like an integral part of the gameplay.
yeah, like when setting out, this has all been built around the player experience. What would I want to play in a game? It's no fun when you're first uh, someone spots you and the whole map then goes hostile. It's no fun to have AI partners that you need to babysit. So it was very important to make them fun to use. Giving them personalities, we can get into in a in a different devlog because that's a big subject enough. But having them be able to react and play with your particular style without you having to do anything specific. If you want to switch from stealth to aggressive, you can do that quickly. And it allows the player to decide what kind of experience they want.
Yeah. And sort of on that subject, I wanna show off some of the combat stuff now as well. Because
Excellent.
yeah, because the way that I mean, as smart as they are and as interesting as they are as obstacles to avoid, they're equally as intelligent during combat as well. So I went ahead and turned on God mode just so everyone knows. And I'm gonna go ahead and alert them. So once again, I have them in, I have their sighting turned off. So like normally he would wake up right here, and if he were to spot me, they're governed by the same rules. So when I shoot one of them, he's gonna become alert. He's then gonna like tell like the all of his nearby all the nearby enemies are gonna become alert as well. Um, uh, what I'm getting at is that would happen if he spotted me as well as being shot. But I have the sighting turned off right now.
So lots of debug going on right now.
Yeah, well, plus it's better for the video. I don't want them waking up instantly when we're trying to show them off. So I
Kind of
actually
inconvenient.
the guy that's patrolling might be in range as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot him, and I managed to headshot him, which because he was alert was nearly an instant kill. So I got 2 bullets on him, and he died in 2 shots. But you can see here that we've woken up one of the other allies, and like they're in the test map, they're gonna attempt. There's only so much in terms of like obstacles. Oh, so now
There's
they're
no
all waking
cover.
up on me. So he's shooting at me and woke up this guy because he was nearby. So you're gonna want to take enemies out so that they are not making your day more difficult.
Yeah, if they're
Um,
running for an alarm, shoot them with anything you got.
yeah. So these guys are Arctic terrorists. They're, we were talking about like how professional or unprofessional some enemies are. These guys they're terrorists, so they're not using quite as advanced tactics. They're going to be more worried about themselves and about the team. So he called out to his friend and woke him up. But if I start attacking him, he's not going to. His friend's not going to retaliate on me any more than he already is.
See him retreat? That's so cool.
Yeah, so like they attempt to like keep themselves safe while also like laying down. See now we're waking up a whole lot of them. So yeah, they're attempting to keep themselves safe and like out of my range while also putting pressure on me. So as I like get closer to them, presumably I'd be shooting at them. They will like attempt to fall back to like cover points that have been set up in the map. And then you'll notice that they are like shooting in bursts. They will attempt to reload occasionally. Well, not occasionally. They have their shooting mechanism is governed by the same systems that your weapons are. Which makes
And they're
a
frenzied. It's just full auto all the time, right?
well. So when they go into a panic state, I'll see if I can show that off. Actually, I think this one. So when you see him go into the panic state, he's going to unload his magazine at me, and then once he's empty, he's gonna the Arctics in particular are just gonna attempt to fall back. So let me see if I can get him to do it. There we go. Nope.
And that increases the accuracy too. What, like 16x is our current modifier on that?
When they are panicked.
When you're aiming down sight.
Oh yeah, so the ADS, like we'll go into weapons in a later video, but the ADS will increase your accuracy. Cause I mean, you can hip fire at him all you want. There we go. So you see how he's like shooting at me until he empties his mag, falls back to reload, and then again puts the pressure back on me.
Oh yeah.
That's their panic state. I think I might kill him if I keep shooting him. Maybe I can show it off again. Nope, he did. Let's try this guy.
And this is, of course, just a test map, but when you play through the
There it
levels,
is.
and this happens on a one-to-one individual combat basis, it just makes it a lot of fun to see all the variations.
Yeah, so like this is some of the things that you may not notice in the heat of combat. And I'll load the map up again and kind of run through like a more realistic, like quick combat scenario. But yeah, like they'll continually try to like press the attack while keeping themselves in cover. Um, Different types of enemies will be smart enough to rather than stand there and reload, they'll attempt to find cover that they can't be hit from and attempt to reload there.
Or fall back to a machine gun that happens to be mounted. Like
He,
a lot of games promise this kind of AI, and I've always found it to be not what I've been wanting. So like being able to see this in action, and it's just kind of mind blowing how much it changes the player experience.
yeah, I'm very happy with how the AIs turned out. I mean, I mean, you can see here that they're acting a little weird. I'm not sure what state they're in. We're in the process of like revamping the enemy AI, which internally we're on like version like 3 or 4 of like the changes that we've made to them. Um, which it's sort of like as we like develop it further, we like find more ways to make the combat interesting. I think at this point we're pretty much like final in terms of the gameplay loop, and
But we're able to tweak while we create, which is really cool.
yeah, and right now we're just working on polishing and making the AI be as responsive and as engaging as we want it to be. Um, we spent a few months like developing these systems, and like I mean, like you said, we sort of discovered unexpectedly that the friendly and enemy AI engagement was going to be like the core game. Excuse me, I
Yeah.
got the hiccup suddenly. Um,
Well, I remember, I think someone wanted a bot in their map,
I'm
and
gonna
so
interject while you're talking. I'm gonna go ahead and like kind of run through this as an actual combat scenario and kind of show off how like it'll look in a more real situation. So go ahead and finish your thought.
I forgot what it was.
I'm sorry. You said someone was wanting something in a level.
Oh, I was gonna, how the whole bot thing kind of came about when someone wanted one of them as a companion, and it wasn't until we re-investigated giving them their demeanors and their attitudes um, that we realized how much it reflects what the player does, and then it kind of just escalated from there.
Yeah, we wanted them. I mean, everyone's played games where you have like escort missions or like AIs that are supposed to be friendly, and a lot of times they are more of a hindrance than a benefit, and like there's no
It's
fun in that,
nothing worse when they suck.
Yeah. So you want them to be. I need to heal.
Oh, the bandage system. Yeah, we've got to make another devlog.
Uh-oh, I seem to have broken something. Well, I need to file a bug for bandaging because I can't get out of my bandage state now. Interesting.
Is that why it's a work in progress?
Yes. All right, well, let's just reload the map. Uh, but yeah, so like I'm not sure there's anything else we want to hit on in terms of the AI. Like I don't want to show off all of their tricks. This is sort of a basic overview of some of the interesting things that they can do in combat, and just like going through the maps themselves, trying to.
It's a good overview because, I mean, honestly, a lot of this, um, if you don't realize exactly what's going on, you may not even notice it, which is the idea. Um,
Yeah,
but
when you're in the middle
it's
of
really
a
can be
combat
really cool
situation
stuff.
like I am right now, like I'm not thinking about like how they're acting or responding. I'm just trying to keep myself alive and take them down. And like again, like they're pushing the attack on me. They're moving around. Like one of them tried to flank me by getting to a cover point.
And
So
there's no physical cover in this test map either.
yeah, like this map would be much more interesting if there were things happening in it, but there are not currently.
That's another devlog.
Yeah. Well, I tried to bandage again and forgot, so I'm not sure if we have anything more to cover here. Like I said, I don't want to show off all their tricks, but I think that there's a lot of interesting stuff happening in terms of the AI that the teaser trailer, like you kind of just can't show that off in like a 90-second, you know, like
Yeah.
flashy, like, hey, A.W.O.L's back, A.W.O.L's out. or A.W.O.L's coming rather.
I,
Um,
I'm hoping this will be a very good companion piece to it. So the combat that you see, you can actually understand what's going on behind it and why it's something that's different than what people have seen.
yeah, the combat encounters are going to be very different from your typical build engine combat,
And
in a
it's
very good way, in a way that I think will be like very new and refreshing, even to like build engine like veteran modders and people who are familiar with games on the engine and other mods and total conversions.
and it's all automatic. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah. So yeah. So in the next video, we'll show off the AI squad and a lot of what they can do, which I think will be a lot of fun.
Oh, that would be lots of fun.
They're really interesting. They've become a very interesting part of the gameplay.
Bad Company was a bit of an influence on them.
Hmm. All right. Well, until next time, then I guess.
Yes, thank you for tuning in and watching. And follow our Twitter, our Discord, and keep up to dates for the latest updates.
Yeah, we'll have all the links to that down in the description. And yeah, we'll try and keep everyone updated on the progress of Project A.W.O.L, which is a very exciting sentence to say after abandoning this project like what was it, 15, 16 years ago?
Yeah, that's so.
Yeah. So I'm very excited for everyone to play this game and kind of see what we've been up to.
Finally, they can go AWOL.
Good one.